And for more on the quest on who becomes Nigeria's next president, as well as other political issues, we're now being joined by Kenny Okolugbu, who is a former commissioner in Delta State and erstwhile member of the PDP Presidential Campaign Council, and author, leadership consultant, and public affairs analyst Abraham Great. Gentlemen, welcome to A News Day. Let me quickly start with you, Kenny Okolugbu. What's your take regarding the crop of aspirants that are cropping up in terms of 2023? What's your immediate response?
It's very interesting because before now you'd agree with me that we would have had a whole lot of presidential aspirants as at 2021. I mean, becoming the president of this country is not something that you're just going to start in a couple of months. We expect that if you're going to become president of Nigeria, you should have done a very, very robust and a very, very robust and a consultation that will take you around the 36 states of this country before you can even come and declare. Well, it's interesting that this is one of the most open races that we have found in the both leading parties, in the APC and in the PDP. The interesting thing is that the ethnic card is also being played. A lot of people have seen it from the perspective that the South should be talking about the presidency as this time. That is the Southeast, the South, and the Southwest. And from the array of aspirants that have indicated interest so far in the APC and in the PDP, it tells you that the die is cast. Nobody wants to focus on any zone at this point in time, even though the APC will tell you that they believe that it should be the South, and there's really no notable northerner. Let's also be realistic, apart from Bello, who has indicated interest in the presidency. In the PDP, we have mostly the northerners indicating interest, and we have Pius Anyim and maybe one or two others from the South. So it's like an open field. That's my perspective.
But is Nigeria ready to hold elections in 2023, considering the security situation of the country?
Oh yeah, that's a very strong question. The sad thing is that today another monarch was abducted in Plateau State. I mean, at the last count, it's been over 200 people that have died in the new year. Well, if you look at the security situation, we had the same situation in 2015. If you remember, the elections were postponed, especially because of the northeastern region. And eventually the security situation was brought to a manageable control, and we had the elections. What the president should be doing at this time is not to play politics, is to take the bull by the horn. The Northwest is on fire, which is his immediate constituency. The Northeast is still burning, even though Buni tries to play politics by saying that people can sleep with their two eyes closed. The Borno State governor has made it very clear that we still have two local governments that are being controlled by Boko Haram to a large extent. And also, the North Central is not free, because Niger State has been going through a whole lot in the past couple of weeks now, which has almost become a recurring decimal. So if you look at it from that perspective, INEC would have to have elections done in a peaceful environment. But if you look at what also happened in Anambra was really burning until when the elections held. And I think they'll be able to sum out that challenge if the president takes the bull by the horn and actually send out the security, his security apparatus to take charge of the worsening situations, especially in the northern region.
All right, Abraham, let's bring you in. Let's get your own take on the zoning controversy and this ethnic tensions that we've been talking about. We know most of the aspirants that have thrown their hat in the ring are from the South, but the North is clamoring for presidency as well. What's your take on?
The first thing that I see with all this thing is that Nigerian democracy is growing. So we have a situation where in Africa we have the most juvenile democracy, even though I don't like democracy. I always believe it's a secrecy of supremacy, but that's another topic for another day. So you see countries like America, you see countries like Ghana that are a two-party country. Nigeria has now gotten to that point on this particular election where it's becoming clear to us that we are a two-party nation. Now, in terms of interest from the different part of the country, That too narrow view is now making us to see that each party don't have beyond 2 or 3 candidates that are viable. So we spend the whole of 2021 talking about the zoning and stuff, but it seems the game itself is playing itself out to such a rate that we can almost count on our fingers. Who are the people that are qualified? Who are the people that are resourced to be able to, run for presidency? And it's nearly clear for all Nigerians to be able to see that this is there. So I don't think the zoning is a particular issue at this point. However, for PDP, I think they might still have to sort that issue out. In the APC, it's coming clear that, it's either we're having the same kind of people in incumbent power, or we're having the father of the party, but in PDP, on the other hand, we will know through their convention, as there are about 3 or 4 viable options in that party. That's my opinion at the moment.
All right, so Kenny, let me just throw that to you. You've heard what he said. What's your take regarding what he's saying regarding zoning? And it just gets you to react to what Abraham has said.
Interestingly, he helped more on my party. I've tried to be very neutral in my analysis here. The thing now is, what I believe is, first and foremost, I expect that if you look at the PDP, we have been able to have a convention. We have been able to elect a national chairman, and not only elect a national chairman, we have been able to elect 20 other officers who are members of the National Working Committee of my party. And so what does that tell you? It tells you that there's a bold step in the PDP to actually make a conscious effort to actually establish a process by which we're going to be able to get a presidential candidate. If you look at his comparison to the APC, yes, the APC, it's also clear that they want to go for a southern candidate, because Bello seems to be the only one so far who is from the north, and he's from the north central, who has indicated interest amidst of the area of people who have come up, like the Umahis, the Ojis Okalus, and Bola Tinubu, and Fayemi, and even Oshibajo, that everybody has rumored that is certainly going to throw his hat into the ring. But if you look at the scorecard of the APC, that is another thing you're going to look at. It's not about where they're going to zone their presidency to. The scorecard of the APC has been abysmal in terms of security, in terms of corruption, and in terms of the economy, which are the 3 mantras with which they came on board to actually get Nigerians to trust them, to give them the ticket in 2015 and to re-elect them in 2019. So what the PDP will have, the advantage the PDP will have is the economy, which is in shambles. At the last count, unemployment was 33%. Inflation is still not only 2 digits, but going back to almost 18%. It rose as high as 19%. And we have unemployment and inflation giving us the highest misery index we have ever had in the history of this country. And so when you look at all these statistics, which is not statistics that I am making, but is even coming from the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, and the poverty level in the country, it tells you that Nigerians are not going to go to the polls looking at zoning. They're not going to go to the polls looking at They're going to go to the polls looking at the scorecard of the APC. And whoever the APC is going to present will be seen from the perspective of the party. They're not going to see it from the perspective of the individual. Because for the last 8 years, Nigerians have suffered a whole lot in terms of economic decline. And if you also look at it, the social investment programs of the APC, which was one thing they paraded, they said they were going to have 3 million Nigerians employed. Today we have less than 500,000 actually that has been employed. Their 5,000 naira cashback that they said they were going to give to the poorest Nigerians has been an abysmal failure. Even the 1,000 people that were supposed to be employed per local government, which at least I give them kudos, because if you put money in the hands of people, you inflate the economy. They only did that for 3 months. And it was not all the 774 local governments that were affected. The other ones were showing figures of less than 1,000 per local government. Because if you had 774,000 people really giving 20,000 naira as they did for 3 months, the economy will be reinflated. And so the Nigerians are not going to look at zoning. Zoning is going to be at the back burner when it comes to the polls in 2023.
Well, I'd like us to speak more on the issue of scorecard. It can be argued that one of the reasons why Nigerians voted for the APC was because the PDP also performed poorly while in office. So, I mean, it seems like Nigerians are stuck between the devil and the deep blue sea. Why then should they switch back to the PDP?
Oh, well, if you remember, the PDP actually apologized. If we thought we did very well, we wouldn't have apologized. We apologized to Nigerians and told them that we're sorry for a couple of the things that we had done wrong. But if you look at it now, it's like marrying two wives and making a comparison. Yes, you say the devil and the blue sea. How much was a bag of rice when the PDP was in power? It's just 8,000 naira. Today, a bag of rice is about 30,000, 35,000. And they're telling you that we're exporting rice. How do you believe that? Look at the Fadama project. Look at the fact that today we had what we call the open wallet system. That is the Ministry of Agriculture. We're giving fertilizers to all the farmers in the north. Today, the 13 states that they did the pilot scheme of the Fadama project, most of the people that are owing for it, 80% of them have not paid back. And you see, the truth about it is that it's not about the policies that the APC had. It's about the fact that Naira was at 165 Naira and got to 195 when Buhari took over. And today, the Naira is over between 570 in the black market and 415 Naira in the official market. Nigeria is the only country that operates a system where you have 3 different exchange rates. And so what am I saying? What I'm saying here is that, yes, the PDP might not have done well. It was anything but Jonathan, if you remember. That was the mantra in 2015. But today you have gotten Buhari, who says he's going to reflate the economy. He's going to set us, he's going to take us back to where we're supposed to be, El Dorado, so to say. But you've seen it all, that the PDP has done a lot better if you look at the economic indices that were under Okonjo-Iweala and what we have today. It's a lot better. So it's not for us to say that, well, the PDP did not do well. Yes, I won't come here and say that the PDP was excellent. The reason we did apologize.
All right, Abram, let me give you a chance to respond to that on the PDP versus APC scorecard and this misery index as we're talking about. Has it gotten worse? Has it gotten better?
For me, I will score the two parties on the same scorecard. I don't see the difference between APC and PDP. You know, I happen to know some of the individuals, and I know a lot of them grew up together. They've done politics together all their lives. So there was a comedian in the country that once said, all we have is APDCP or something like that. You know, for me, it's not, all of those are just nomenclatures. There has been a great failure on the set of leaders that we have in this country. Number one, to connect the country. With neither PDP or APC have actually been able to. You know, I always I wrote a book that is coming out soon. I based it on Maslow's hierarchy of need. On the Maslow's hierarchy of need, the first need is the physiological need. Either you talk about the PDP or you talk about the APC, which of these governments have been able to give Nigerians good air to breathe? You know, good roads to drive on, water coming through everybody. Nigeria is about the only big nation I can count of in the whole world that does not have permanent electricity. It's a capitalist country. Everything from the trolley you come into the country is costing you everybody's. And when you look at who are the people driving these things, they are the two parties that we're talking about. However, you know, to respond to him, I'm neither APC nor PDP. I'm a Nigerian. And unfortunately, I've never voted in this country because I don't live here. You know, I've never lived here in about 25 years, but I've had the interest of this nation. So when I'm looking at candidates or when I'm looking at my contribution, I was, you know, highly involved in most of the election in this country. But from afar, I look at capacity. You know, the capacity of the individuals that are, you know, coming to the fore at the moment will determine. You see, let me tell you something about some of the capacity that I'm seeing. I'm seeing on both parts there are men and women of integrity, but also you can have integrity and not have capacity. You may have a good heart, but you don't have a good brain. Or you may be tired in your brain and stuff like that. So it's a high time that Nigerians become objective and stop demonizing candidates, and we put the candidates to debate. We test their intellectual prowess. So there is a candidate, for example, now that I know, I've run Lagos State. I happen to, you know, Nigerians will think I'm advocating for this. I have about 3 options, and I haven't made up my mind yet. I was in my early 20s when this man was about to become governor in Lagos State, and I was working with some of his friends in the diaspora when he was planning to be a governor. the vision that he had for the state he was going to govern, I happened to be the one, because there was no email per se in Nigeria at the time. I will be typing emails, sending things. And when I come today, I come to the island. I saw what I saw in 1998, 1999 coming to part. The first thing you need in a leader is vision. The next thing you need in a leader is the ability to build a team. You have a leader who has the antecedent of building teams, building leaders, raising multiple leaders. You will call those kind of leaders because Nigerians will like to throw stones. You say, oh, he's greedy, he's this. But how is it different from the Clinton family? How is it different from the Bush family? If you go to Texas right now, from Arlington to Dallas to Texas to San Antonio, you will see the Bush family toll gate, this and that. But do they deliver to the state? Did they take the state from obscurity? So we should begin to look at the candidacy of people that can industrialize the nation, that can turn the nation into a place that is viable economically, a place that you can also move on the two-tier of Maslow's hierarchy of need, which is the safety. If you cannot give the Nigerians the first two level of the 5 level of Maslow's hierarchy of need, we might as well just obliterate the two parties and just know that we don't have a nation. But the comfort we have is this, and I'm saying this to Nigerians, is that our democracy is still very young. Some of the countries that we compare ourselves to have over 800 years, 1,000 years, 2,000 years of being established. One of the reasons why I'm not a proponent of democracy is this: there is no country under this planet, from Genesis to COVID, who has been able to raise a country, build a great nation in 4 years. Most nations that practice democracy today had a king who ruled for 40 years or what have you. It takes time to build a nation. And as citizens, we have to stop this negativism about our nation, always slagging ourselves, pulling ourselves down. There is no good leader. Anyone that rises now, we're still going to drag them. We're still, rightfully so. But let's also know that we are all we have. We have a nation to build. Let's become positive. Let's look at things and people more objectively, and let's, rally towards whatever we have and pray for them that they succeed.
Okay. All right, then. Kenny, I'd like to come to you for you to react. One of the things that Abraham talked about is the capacity of the individual rather than the party itself. And also, he mentioned quite a number of problems that Nigeria does have, including the electricity issue he talked about. He talked about safety and industrialization as well. So supposing PDP was in charge, for example, or they did win the elections, how would they sort of address those problems? And also, I'd like you to address the capacity of the individual, as he mentioned as well, briefly.
He didn't name the individual. Who's the individual?
Well, I think we can infer as to who he is discussing about.
No, he didn't mention the individual. I'm saying he's talking about the candidate. He's talking about the capacity of the candidate.
He talked about the candidate, but he didn't mention him. But at least, you have said, we all know who he was talking about. But first, let me look at what you have just said in terms of electricity. Fashola was someone that we had a lot of respect for, because I live in Lagos too, even though I also live in Delta. I was a commissioner then when Fashola was in Lagos State, and he did a whole lot here. And by the time he got into the federal system, we thought he was going to raise the bar in the power sector. We know he did abysmally, completely. He was woeful in the power sector. Maybe that was one of the reasons they removed power from him. And as we talk today, we haven't even raised the transmission to 4,000 megawatts. APC promised us they were going to take us to almost 6,000 megawatts and eventually take us to beyond 10,000 megawatts. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that the fact that we sit down today and we take a retrospect to the days when we were talking about the promises that were made, and we're still talking about those promises today and making a comparison, will tell you that we haven't moved from where we are. Now, if you look at the power sector, what we needed in the power sector was to encourage public-private partnership. The DISCOs were brought in because they felt that the DISCOs were going to be able to carry out a holistic change in the power sector. We have the Transmission Company of Nigeria, the TCN, which is solely owned by the federal government. That one would take charge of the GENCOs, which are the ones that generate, and the DISCOs are the ones that will sell to us, who are the individuals. But today, most of the DISCOs are complaining. They're operating at a time that they're not having enough power being generated by the GENCOs. Why are the GENCOs not able to generate power? Because the TCN is not managing the power sector as he should have managed the power sector.
All right, Kenny, I have to interrupt you now. It is so unfortunate, even though that discussion is quite engaging. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon for such an amazing discussion.
Thank you.
Abraham Grade and Kenny Okolugbu, thank you so much.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.